Welcome everybody to our LFI Lunch and Learn today. With us today is a group. We met these guys in Utah at the Best Ever Conference this year and really hit it off. Really liked the story these guys had. We had a lot of co-aligned strategies of our businesses. Oh,
Chad,
you not hear me?
Chad, we might have to start this over.
You not hear me?
We didn't lose each other. Hey, Chad, you froze. I think we might have to stop and start that over again.
All right. Am I back now? Do you got me now?
Yep.
Got you now. Yep.
Perfect timing. Gosh, I gave you guys raving reviews too. And
That was, I'm sure it was amazing. I didn't hear it.
Right. Well, we'll try this again then. Just wanted to introduce the group from Nomad Capital. I was saying we ran into these guys in Utah at the Best Ever Conference and really hit it off. Learned a lot about their company, their strategies, and there seemed to be a lot of alignment with the goals of Left Field around educating and networking. And it really seemed like a good fit to introduce this group to our community. So we're glad to have Neil Henderson and Clint Harris with us today from Nomad Capital. And with that, I'll turn it over to you guys and thank you for coming on to share information about your background and everything. So thank you for being here.
That sounds great. Thank you, Chad. I appreciate you having us. It was great getting to know your whole group out at Best Ever and very excited about the community you all have created. So I'll jump straight in. My name's Clint Harris. This is our presentation for Nomad Capital. We're a 506B syndication. We focus on self-storage, primarily on self-storage conversion projects. Because we're 506B, we can take non-accredited investments from friends and family. It means we have to have a substantive relationship with them. A little bit more about that later. So I'm not going to come on and pitch you about an upcoming deal or what we have coming down the pipeline. Today, we're going to talk to you about what we do, our strategy, how we do it. If it looks like something that you have interested in, we'll give you opportunity to connect with us and give us a chance to build that relationship so that we can, once we kind of meet those hurdles, we can show you what we have coming down the pipeline in the future.
Again, thanks everyone for joining us. I'm Neil Henderson. A little disclaimer here. I know Left Field often does this disclaimer, but we're not attorneys. We're not accountants. This is a 506B offering. It's open to accredited and non-accredited investors. Sorry, it's not an offering. It's just a high level overview, but we have to have a substantive relationship with you before we can talk to you about any of our deals. Please seek outside counsel. This is an overview only. And for informational purposes only, and you should do your own due diligence.
All right, we want to start the presentation today with a quote by Sam Zell. Unfortunately, we lost Sam a couple weeks ago. He's an unbelievable man that did some unbelievable things in business and in his community. So we thought it would be appropriate to start with a quote from him that I think will make a lot more sense throughout the presentation. Sam Zell says, "My own formula is very simple. It starts and ends with replacement costs because that is the ultimate game." So just give a little nod to Sam there. All right, I'll tell you a little bit about us. These are our partners. It's a father and son team that started Nomad Capital, Eric and Levi Hemingway, background in commercial construction. Our goal, the name behind Nomad Capital, for us, a nomad is someone that can go where they want, when they want, and do what they want. And a modern day nomad is somebody that has a real estate portfolio that gives them the freedom to do that. I think that we are all looking, if you're an investor and you're here in this active community, you're looking for some level of financial freedom. In my own personal opinion, financial freedom is a little shallow of a goal. It's kind of an inch deep and a mile wide. The goal for me is not financial independence. It's financial independence combined with time independence and location independence. Those three things together create an independence of purpose. And that's where you can go pursue what you want to in life with the people that you love, doing the things that you love. And whether it's charity or travel or skiing or fishing or diving or whatever it may be, that's what we're after, is that independence of purpose. And that to us is a real estate nomad. So our goal is to build a tribe of nomads that have a backing of a real estate portfolio that give you the freedom to go where you want, when you want, and do what you want. All right, so a little bit about us. We're a vertically integrated self-storage syndication. So we do everything in-house. We do in-house acquisitions. We find the deals. We do all the underwriting and the due diligence. We raise the capital in-house. Neil and I do capital raising and investor relations, along with some other things. We have in-house construction. So we do all the construction ourselves with 25 years experience. We have an unlimited license to do some pretty crazy stuff. We do the property management in-house as well. We currently have about 5,000 units in our pipeline. So this is our team leader, the founder of Nomad Capital, Eric Hemingway. He's got 22 years of experience in construction and self-storage. He's done 150 million in commercial real estate transactions, 100 million in residential real estate, and built his first self-storage from the ground up since 2006. Still owns and operates that facility as well. So we got about 17 years of self-storage experience in the group, and that's the first facility there.
So Clint, I'm going to jump in here real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt. You glossed over something key about the name Nomad and the reason for being called Nomad Capital. Eric Hemingway in 2006, he built his first self-storage facility and then took his family on, shortly thereafter, took his family on a 3-year cruise on a sailboat around the Mediterranean. Started with 5 kids, came home with 6. And then eventually settled in Wilmington, North Carolina. I didn't want to, you missed that. And that's, I think, is a real key part of our story. So
you're right. It really is. At some point, everybody on our team has been or lived the lifestyle of a real estate nomad. And that's kind of one of the passions that pulled us together. So yeah, if you ever get the chance to ask Eric about that, please do so. It's an amazing story. This is his son, Levi, who was on that trip with him as well, across the Atlantic Ocean. So he's a co-founder of Nomad Capital. He's our director of construction. He's been a general contractor for 9 years. He's done 500,000 square foot of commercial construction and 5 years of experience in building out self-storage facilities. This is Neil on the call with me here today. He's done over 100 million in commercial real estate transactions, raising capital for multifamily and self-storage. He and his wife, Brittany, own and operate the Road to Family Freedom Real Estate podcast. And he and I are the co-hosts on the Truly Passive Income podcast that is launching in the next couple of weeks. So we've got excited to have some of the founders of Left Field Investors on there as our speakers. He's got an 18-year background as a defense contractor with the Air Force. So my name's Clint Harris. I've got a 15-year background in medical sales. I sold and implanted pacemakers and defibrillators for 15 years. Outside of that, I built a multifamily portfolio, converting multifamily properties to Airbnbs. That led to a property management company, and that allowed me to go away from my medical sales career, and I'm a full-time investor now. I started off investing with Nomad as an LP and then made the jump to general partner. And I've raised capital for a little over 90 million in commercial real estate. And then Drake is he's our expertise in construction management and financial analysis. He's our director of acquisitions. So he's finding the properties, he's underwriting them with a finance and marketing strategy. He put together a successful landscaping design company before this while he's in college, and he's done the acquisitions for a little over 90 million in commercial real estate. All right, the current assets that we have under management, we just hit our 2-year goal for where we wanted to be from the time we started syndication. We're a little ahead of schedule. We just hit $100 million worth of stabilized assets under management. We currently have 502,000 net rentable square feet of storage. It's 3,200 units with another 1,800 in the pipeline. So we're 3,200 units right now, 1,800 in the pipeline. We're looking at high growth secondary, tertiary markets across the Southeast. We are self-storage developers. We had a 2-year goal of 100 million, which we just surpassed. We've got a 5-year goal of hitting $500 million worth of commercial assets under management, and we're trying to get to $1 billion in 10 years. Neil, you want to take it here?
yeah, so this was Eric's first conversion project in Wilmington, North Carolina. After he got off the sailboat, spent some time building houses in North Carolina for a while, and then decided he wanted to get back into storage. This was a former print shop, and it was in terrible shape when he bought it, but it's now 100% occupied. It's a 100% unmanned facility. And here you can get sort of a look of what it looked like before and what it looked like after.
So, all right, guys, let's get down to brass tacks here. This is our signature strategy, and I think it's one of the things that we have that makes us a little bit different from most of the syndications that you're going to see out there. What we're doing is exactly that Sam Zell quote that I told you at the beginning. We're buying buildings for less than replacement costs and converting them to a different asset class. We buy big box retail, empty Kmarts, grocery stores, and warehouses in high residential density areas that are underserved in terms of storage, that are in high growth areas. We usually buy them for significantly less than the replacement cost because they've been sitting empty for 8, 10, 12, sometimes longer. So look at this building on the left here. That's what it looked like when we got it. The uglier, the better. It's kind of like when you flip a house. You don't really make money when you sell that flip. You made money when you bought it correctly. When you walk into that house and it smells like cat pee and the active investor goes, that smells like money, that's what we buy. Big box retail, high residential density areas. These are complicated construction projects, but we've got partners that have a lot of experience in that. So on the left hand, that's what it looks like. On the right, that's what it turns into. And the real key for us is exactly what Sam Zell said, is that it's all about getting it below the replacement cost.
All right, so this was the second conversion project. This was actually not one that Eric built himself. It had already been converted to self-storage previously by a previous owner, but it was not 100% climate controlled. It wasn't climate controlled at all. And it had a real problem in that it had, they were using sodium, those giant, big old sodium lights. And so one of the first things that Eric did when he came in is he converted those all to LED. He added HVAC units, made it 100% climate controlled. And that actually caused the electric bill to go down. This is what it looks like inside. It's got room to add another level if he ever decides to do that, which he may do at some point. Be a great value add. So this is our first syndication deal that we did. It was a Kmart conversion in Reidsville, North Carolina. It's 489 climate controlled units. It was an 87,000 square foot vacant Kmart that had been vacant for years. It's now 58,500 net rentable. It was a total project cost of 3.6 million, and it's got a pro forma value 5 years from now at 8.8.
So this facility right here is a great example. Again, I don't mean to jump in on you, Neil. This facility, it rented 44 units this month, by the way. So go back to the previous slide if you don't mind, Neil. So the purchase price on this for the brick and mortar building, we paid 1.5 million for this for 87,000 square feet. The replacement cost just for the price of the cost of construction to replace the cinder block brick and mortar shell was $6.5 million. So we bought it for 1.5. We put a little over 2 into it. So we're into the project for 3.6. Stabilized value is 8.8 million. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. We got 87,000 square feet here for a fraction of what it would cost just to build that. And we know where Kmarts are, right? High residential density areas. If you think about it, across the Southeast, at one point in time, there was 2,400 Kmarts in the country. And where do they build them? They either built them in the middle of a town or the town built around them. So for 10, 15, 20 years, this was the location where the people in that community would drive to get their stuff, whether it's grocery stores or a Kmart. They're going there to buy their stuff. It's the same reason that we get it for a fraction of the replacement cost, and it makes it a great location for those same people to sometimes bring that same stuff and put it back in the same building and pay us to do that. So because of that, high residential density areas, good growth in that market in the 1,357 mile radius, and significantly below the replacement cost. So I think this one really is a good way of highlighting our strategy. Sorry, Neil, continue.
Okay. So if you ever wondered what an 87,000 square foot Kmart looks like completely empty, there you see it on the left. This is what it looks like on the right. This is what it looks like today. As Clint said, this one's been open since middle of December. It had a little slow lease up period in the beginning, mostly because of the holidays, but it has really ramped up in the last couple of weeks. It's over 100 units rented, and that one's moving along fine. All right, so this was a little bit outside of our normal buy box. This was an existing facility that we bought at certificate of occupancy with an expansion opportunity. And that little dirt area up in the upper right-hand corner is where we're going to add a we're going to call building E. It's an additional 11,500 net rentable square feet and another 142 units of storage. The total project cost on this one was 6.8 million. This one has been open for just 12 months today, and it's 70% occupied after only 12 months in operation. This one's just going gangbusters. All right, so this was our second Kmart conversion in Danville, Virginia, nearby where they're building the Caesars Resort there in Danville. It's going to be 725 climate controlled units. The existing building was 97,500 square feet. It's going to yield 74,000 net rentable. Total project cost of 5.5 million. And someone was asking about the purchase price on this one was 2.5 million. That includes the brick and mortar and the land. Its as is value at appraisal, when we went to the bank, they appraised it at 7.25 million. So you were asking, somebody was asking about replacement cost. That's what we look at as replacement cost. Its certificate of occupancy value, according to the bank, is 9.1 million. So we're all into this for 5.5, and at certificate of occupancy, it's going to be worth 9.1 million. Again, this is what it looks like before. After this one literally opened probably 2 weeks ago.
Yep. So it was at that 2-week mark that we got that appraisal from the bank for 9.1. Stabilized valuation on that one is a little over 13 million.
All right. And this one's a great example of another great example of the kinds of ugly buildings we like to go after. This is in Macon, Georgia. It was a grocery store conversion, a former Piggly Wiggly, for any of you know that brand at all. It is going to yield 500 climate controlled units. The existing building was 62,100 square feet, and it's going to yield 46,500 net rentable. The project cost was 3.86 million. And I'm going to let Clint take it as far as the cost. But first I want to warn you that the before photos are something else. So if you can look on that bottom right-hand corner, this is the condition the building was in when we bought it. The roof was partly caved in because an HVAC unit had been picked up by a tornado on an adjoining property and plopped down on top of it. So one of the things we had to do is go through and repair one of the joists and replace it. And but that's the kind of stuff that we do because we're not afraid, you know, with a construction background, we're not afraid of that kind of heavy lift of value add. Clint, you want to go a little further?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're all in on this project for a little over 3.5 million, but we bought the building for 850 grand. It was listed, I think, for 1.6. It had been empty for a very long time, very rough shape, roof problems, like Neil mentioned. We ended up getting the building for 850. So you talk about a fraction of the replacement cost. That checks that box. And then it also came with the parking lot. So currently nothing's under contract. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we're under negotiations right now to outparcel the parking lot for 750K to turn it into a fast food restaurant. So they're actively working on that right now. If that's the case, then essentially we got the building for 100 grand. We're all into it for around 3.5 stabilized value because of the net rentable price per square foot for that market is over 13 million. So this is exactly what we're talking about. Buy below the replacement cost, do a conversion in a high residential dense area with great prices for self-storage that's currently an underserved market. So I think that's a good example. One more thing I'll throw in there, Neil. Anytime we look at a project, our strategy, it has to stand alone by itself, right? That building has to make sense as a storage facility. And obviously it does. It's a home run. But it does bring up a lot of other opportunity that comes along with that. We have, if you look at putting 90,000 square feet of solar on the roof of a Kmart, that's certainly something that we've taken a look at. You have these parking lots that can either be turned into boat and RV storage. They can be out parceled. There's a lot of different spin-off strategies that can produce extra revenue for our investors. We don't usually advertise that because the project has to stand alone as is, but we're always looking for other different levels that we can pull to increase that the revenue for ourselves and for our investors.
So this next project was in Gastonia, North Carolina, just west of Charlotte. It's basically a suburb of Charlotte. It's a warehouse conversion. It was the old Sundrop bottling and manufacturing facility. It's going to be 500 plus units. The existing building was a little over 70,000 existing. It's going to yield about 50,000 of net rentable. The total project cost was 5.1 million. We acquired that all for $1.5 million off market. It's been appraised $5 million as is, without us even touching it. We've been approached by people trying to buy it from us. The estimated valuation at certificate of occupancy is going to be 8.1 million and a long-term stabilization at $12 million. This is what it looks like inside. Currently, we literally just started demolition on this one. It's on a nice high traffic road. That road leads right into basically Charlotte International Airport. Our latest project that we're working on is in Burlington, North Carolina. It's an old hosiery factory and warehouse conversion. It's going to yield 525 climate controlled units, 65,000 square foot existing. It's going to yield $45,000 net rentable. Project cost is $5 million. The list price was $1.95 million. We got it for $1.3 million. And again, certificate of occupancy value, according to the bank, is $7 million. And our loan to value on this one, once it's stabilized, should be 21%, which is just, it's normally absolutely reversed at 80%. That's what it looks like now. These photos were taken obviously before the existing tenant moved out. On the upper left-hand corner of that drone shot, you can see downtown Burlington is right there to the right. You're right near the heart of downtown Burlington.
All right, so here's our 4 strategies. There are there's a couple questions here. Do we have additional value for the parking lot? Absolutely. We're always looking at boat and RV and things like that. Again, the project has to stand alone by itself. But yes, we always look at that in every project. In terms of the price, the rent ratio, the price per square foot for rent, we'll circle back on that a little bit later. I want to go in a little bit more in depth on that, but we've got a good answer for you. I think some of it will become a little bit self-evident. Here's our primary strategy. We've got 4 primary strategies that we focus on. Number one is we're leaning pretty heavy on here in the conversation is conversion. Conversion is kind of medium risk with fairly high reward, in our opinion, just an opinion there, but it's medium risk because we have really, really talented construction partners. We take on some pretty wild stuff like AC units getting dropped on the roof and things like that. But the idea of what we're doing is not rocket science. You take an old big box retail building and convert it to climate controlled self-storage. Sometimes we put a drive aisle in, sometimes we don't. It just depends on the project. But those conversions, because we are able to get them for so much less than the replacement cost, we can be all in on these projects where if you're building new climate controlled self-storage, you're going to be in there for $120, $150 a square foot, depending on cost of construction in your area. With these projects, we can get all in $60 to $80 a square foot, depending on how much we got the building for sometimes. So those conversions they're a huge value swing because you're buying it as empty retail space. Big box retail is dead. Walmart wiped out Kmart. Amazon has destroyed that space. There's more and more people shopping online than there ever have been. There's very little appetite for big box retail in these giant spaces like this. So we're buying it for pennies on the dollar. So that's our primary strategy. We love those conversions, especially when they have good signage, good visibility, high traffic count, and like we talked about, good demand drivers in the market. Outside of that, like the Holden Beach project that Neil brought up, we do look for expansion. It's fairly low risk, especially if we're getting an existing facility. It may already have cash flow, and then we can either sometimes add on a second story mezzanine or sometimes add an expansion like another building, like a building E or something like that. That can it can increase the value. The thing about expansion and existing is that you're usually buying it as self-storage. So it's being valued as self-storage. So you have to pay a premium for it, but we're always looking for any kind of creative value add. Anything that we take on has to have heavy value add for us to get the returns that we're looking for and that we promised to our investors, right? So everything's got to have some kind of value add there. The best way we get that value add is conversions, because we're buying it as one asset class, completely changing the formula by which that asset is valued, and it massively increases the value. But we do look for expansions in the right situation. We do look for existing that's mom and pop operated, maybe don't have a website, and we can use our in-house management to optimize the management and increase the value that way. And then, of course, we're commercial developers. Our partners are, we do look for new development. I think that's usually, we try to mix one or two of those in here or there. Conversion is obviously where the most value is for us, but we want to stay pretty well-rounded in the marketplace. So those are our 4 primary investment strategies. So right now, this is our asset summary. We have 100 million of commercial assets stabilized under management. Eric still has a facility we just finished an expansion on in Arizona. Besides that, we're currently in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Virginia. We really like that Sun Belt Southeast area. We got 500,000 in existing net rentable square feet, currently a little over 3,200 units, another 1,800 in the pipeline. And our primary focus is the climate controlled self-storage. We have a little bit of non-climate, a little bit of boat and RV, but primarily we're looking for climate controlled. And that, again, with the conversions, the buildings a lot of times already have sprinkles. We can just change the light to LED and put new HVAC units on if they need it, and the whole thing is one climate controlled shell.
All right. So for those of you who are not familiar with the storage industry, and for those of you who are, forgive me, you've probably heard this before. roughly just shy of 11% of all households in the United States currently utilize self-storage, and that may have topped 11% by now. And that does not include the businesses that are also utilizing self-storage at an increasing rate. The national average occupancy is 92%. It's just shy of a $40 billion industry, and there are 52,000 facilities nationwide. There were $23.6 billion in self-storage acquisitions in 2021. So how does it perform? As I'm sure you hear often, is that storage performs well in good times and bad, and we're going to sort of cover why that is. During the Great Recession from 2007 to 2009, if you look at the different REITs that were involved in self-storage, mortgage, retail, office, multifamily, self-storage had one of the lowest drops of any of those asset classes. And then from 1994 to 2021, a roughly 27-year time span, self-storage has outperformed almost all those other asset classes as well. And more about that in a minute. Marcus & Millichap is one of the largest commercial real estate brokers in the country. They do massive amounts of research and data. They recently put out a study talking about how inflation was impacting various commercial asset classes. The only asset class that they predict performs better than self-storage in inflationary environments is lodging, hotels, because they can change their prices literally every night. Storage is almost in the same boat because we can do it month to month. We're not locked into any 12-month or 24-month leases like office, retail, or multifamily. So if you had invested in a self-storage REIT back in 1994, and we'd all been that smart, this gives you an idea, and this is not inflation adjusted, but this gives you an idea of what your money be worth today. $50,000 investment earning an average annual yield of 18.8% would be worth a little bit more than $5 million today. Inflation adjusted, that's more like 4.1, but it's still just an eye-watering number. So the average person who utilizes self-storage predicts that they're going to use it for less than 6 months. But in reality, over 40% of people rent for over a year. There are people that are renting some of Eric's older units in some of his older facilities that have been renting for over 10 years. The different kinds of profile of the types of customers. Most people are, it's moving, downsizing. They don't have enough space at home. Home offices and homeschool rooms was a big driver of self-storage since COVID, the last couple of years. And there's also a lot of businesses that, like I said, that are starting to use storage as well. They're using it as little miniature distribution centers.
I'll jump in here, Neil, if you don't mind. So the 4 Ds that are pushing the demand for storage is death and divorce are 2 of the biggest ones, which unfortunately are always constant. And then you have displacement for work and things like that, and then downsizing. And anytime people are moving in and out, it's not a bad thing for us because it gives us opportunity to adjust pricing, right? If somebody's been locked in for a long time or we've had increases, as the occupancy goes up, we're going to increase the prices as well. So those are the 4 main drivers. And like we said, unfortunately, those are pretty constant. So here's the emerging trends that are happening in the space. One of the concerns that I had as a limited partner investor with Nomad before I became a general partner was, when I think of self-storage, I think of the baby boomers, an older consumer society, Christmas decorations and storing things of that nature. And so what happens as that consumer changes over time is self-storage going to go away. So we spent some money on the data, and here's what we found. There are significant generational differences in the way that it's being used in the space, and it's really important that as the provider of that asset class that you listen to that. What I mean by that is traditionally the baby boomers are, for the first time, by the way, the baby boomers are no longer the largest population segment. During COVID, millennials have passed them out. Millennials make up 34% of the population now, and they use 38% of self-storage. But the way that they use it is very, very different. So what you'll see is with the millennial generation, they're not buying houses. A lot of them have been priced out of that market. And so they're renting. And on top of that, a lot of them want to live closer to an urban core. closer to a downtown city. So instead of buying houses that have attics and that have garages, most of them are renting, and renters have a higher percentage use of using self-storage. So instead of renting a 2-bedroom condo for $1,700, they might rent a 1-bedroom condo for $1,200 or $1,300 and then spend $150 a month for a storage unit. They don't have stuff the same way that the previous generation did. Most of their belongings have to do with experiences, but they still have items. It's more of the Instagram lifestyle. They still are busy with activities. And so what happens is they're utilizing their self-storage space in a different way. They're using it as an extension of the closet or an extension of the garage. They still have things that they need to store: wakeboards, snowboards, mountain bikes, kayaks, skis, and winter clothes. And so what happens is, instead of paying for that extra space in their condo that they're renting, they'll rather pay less and use a self-storage facility. So that means that any facility that is catering to that growing population segment has to be several things. It has to be safe, secure, well lit, easy access. They have to be able to get in and out very easily. So they need to be able to show up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday and get in there and get their snowboard. And that means QR codes, touchscreen kiosks, easy access, because the consumer is changing. So as long as you know that self-storage is not going anywhere. But if you're going to invest or into self-storage or buy self-storage yourself, it needs to be climate controlled. It needs to be safe, secure, well lit, easy access, and climate controlled, because they're using it as an extension of the closet. So these are the unit breakdowns that we're getting. Like, we're doing essentially what we do is a feasibility study, which I'll get to in just a second. But the feasibility studies give us a breakdown of, based upon the square footage for the facility in that market. We want to know the answer to the question of what's the highest and best use of every dollar that we have to invest into this facility. So the feasibility study is going to look at the population growth, the demographics, the number of people per household, the percentage of people that are renting versus owning, where everybody works, make sure not one person, everybody's working for one company that could go out of business, make sure the population growth for the town is increasing. And outside of that, it's going to give us a look at what the competitive pricing is. So on the right, here's a typical pricing strategy that we have, where the storage competitor closest to our facility is at $21.50 a square foot. The 3-mile average might be $19.53 a square foot. So we're typically coming in with our pricing, because we buy the building so much less than replacement cost. And we have so much, our LTV is so much lower, and our price per square foot of completed storage space is half of what anybody doing new development is, then our pricing can be lower if it needs to be. So we always underwrite for about 15% lower than the 3-mile average in the market. Obviously, if we're booking up fast, we're not going to keep it there. We're going to move it up, but we try to be very conservative with all of our underwriting, with everything from the timeline of construction, the cost of construction, the price per net rentable square foot, and everything else. We're trying to set ourselves up for good surprises and not bad ones. And that same feasibility study that gives us the price gives us here an example of the unit breakdown and what percentage of different size units we need to have the highest and best use of the space to generate the best return. So go back one slide there. Neil, thanks. Yeah, this is our sensitivity analysis. So anytime we look at a project, we're looking at the worst, likely, and best case scenarios. We're trying to set ourselves up, obviously, to land between the likely and best case scenarios, but we want to underwrite everything and put everything out there. So this is kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like. On these conversion projects, you'll see that there's no cash flow year 1 and year 2. We do typically offer a preferred return, which we pay. It's a back-owed preferred return. As soon as the cash flows come in, our investors get paid first. But then quickly you catch up with the preferred return, the cash flows. And then some of our projects are 5-year holds. Some of them are 10-year holds. And then there are some projects that are legacy holds that we intend to keep forever. We still want to double our investors' money by way of refinance, which is a non-taxable event. But again, that's going to depend on project to project. And we can talk about more of that once we have a relationship with potential investors. So this is the third-party feasibility study that I was talking about. Our acquisition team, Drake, we do an in-house feasibility study that looks at all the drivers for the market. And outside of that, we want to have a third-party feasibility study to verify all of our findings. So the number one SBA lender for self-storage in the country is actually here in Wilmington, North Carolina, where we're based out of. It's called Live Oak Bank. We don't bank with them for everything, but they have the strictest underwriting out there. And so because of that, we kind of emulate their underwriting. So we use the same person that they use for their feasibility studies. His name is Bob Copper with Self-Storage 101. He's become known as the gold standard for self-storage feasibility studies across the country. So we spend thousands of dollars and get about a 60-page report to look for all the drivers in that market. You know, according to his statistics, Bob rejects about 70% of the projects that come across, but we're constantly doing our own in-house feasibility study and then get third-party verification as well to kind of mimic that strict underwriting process. This is a typical timeline of one of our conversion projects. So from the time we close on it, we try to immediately have permits and demo lined up and hit the ground running with construction. Once we're rounding the corner on construction, we start a marketing campaign. As soon as construction ends, we get CO. We try to open up with a waiting list and start filling those units up immediately. Once we become cash flow positive, which on our units is usually around 40% occupancy, we build up a small reserve and then the cash flow distributions go out. We pay the back-owed preferred returns to our investors, and then their percentage of equity dictates their percentage of cash flows moving forward. Our investors always get paid first, and then and that's the typical timeline of what it looks like. Obviously, it's going to vary a little bit from project to project depending on construction. All right, we do all of our own in-house property management. That picture on the right there is a picture of our touchscreen kiosk in our Reedsville Kmart conversion. So again, this has to be about easy access. We want our clients to be able to, we usually have someone on site. So we have people on site to catch everybody coming through that door until we hit about 60% occupancy. Then we can usually move that management off to a new facility. And we do everything from there on with QR codes, touchscreen kiosks. Everybody's got a phone these days. So you can show up at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, scan the code, or use the touchscreen kiosk, get in and get a rental unit. And that has a significant reduction in the fixed overhead cost of managing the facilities. And we manage it all from a central location in-house. This question often comes up, so I did want to have an answer to this. We do accept self-directed retirement accounts, so self-directed IRAs and 401ks. We have a sponsor that we align with and allow people to invest if that's a strategy that you're interested in. And then the best way to connect with us is just go to our website. It's nomadcapital.us. Right in the middle of the screen is a button that says connect with us, and that allows you to schedule a call with Neil or myself. The best thing for us to do is just connect with you and talk. We talk to investors every day. We are investors, limited partner and general partner investors. So first of all, we love talking about real estate. I'm a part of the Left Field Investors community. I have retirement funds that I can't invest into our deals because I'm a general partner. So I'm shopping too. So I love what you guys have created. In order for us to connect with you and be able to tell you about what we have in the future, we have to build a substantive relationship. And it's a very easy process, but the best way to do that, nomadcapital.us, click connect with us, schedule a call with Neil or myself, and we'll go from there. Look forward to talking with you. The last thing, and I'll go back to that connect screen for anybody that wants to look at it in just a second, but I want to take a moment and say thank you. Chad, you're the first person with Left Field that I connected with, but what you guys have put together, you know, Jim and Ryan and Steve, and it's been phenomenal, especially getting some time to spend with you guys. I think that the hunger and people looking for alternative investment strategies has always been there, but I don't think that that just having a central community is really, really special. And what I really love is having the opportunity for right now, 1,300, who knows where you guys are going to be in a few months, 1,300 sets of eyes looking at the operators, looking at the deals. You create that community and people building trust in what's happening out there by having transparency. So I wanted to say thank you for having us on, for being on our podcast called Truly Passive Income Podcast as well. I appreciate that. And just the opportunity for us to present what Nomad has to offer. So thank you for that, the platform that you've created.
No, absolutely. You can just thank me. That's fine. I'll take all the credit.
Sounds great.
No, we really appreciate it. It was really neat meeting you guys. We spent a lot of time with you out in Utah. Really like your story as well, what you guys have done. So I've been excited to get to this point to be able to introduce you to the community. These are the steps we want to take with the Lunch and Learns, is introduce a new operator to the group, allow them to get some background, especially a 506B scenario like you guys are set up as, and then allow the community to be able to reach out to you to learn more, gauge their interests, get that relationship built. And then hopefully we move forward with, you know, some deals down the road too. But really excited to have you guys on. Really good stuff that you shared. Love the, the numbers are almost hard for me to fathom at times looking at what you guys are into, but it makes sense. So really appreciate you being able to make it on finally today and sharing all this with the community. So we do have some
Appreciate that.
Q&A. If you want to run through the rest of the Q&A, that'd be great.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
do I just make the answer live?
Yeah.
That-
Yeah. If you click answer live, and then it'll go away after that, after you answer.
Okay.
Yep.
So the question, I'll repeat the question and I'll see if I understand your question. Mr. Dwight, is that how I pronounce your name? So what percentage, what dollar per square foot rent are we looking for as a ratio of dollar per square foot of purchase price? I don't know if we really, that'd be a better question for Drake. But I don't know that that's really how we look at it. We're looking at replacement cost, and we're looking for price per square foot in the market. But I'd be happy to ask Drake if that is a question, or if that's something that he even looks at, and I'd be happy to get back to you.
Typically, we're into these projects, the conversions for so little that a lot of times the price per square foot, what we're purchasing the building for, is dependent upon the net rentable price per square foot for the comps in the market. And it can be all over the place. Some places will have an average price per square foot of $15 a square. Another place might be 22. So what we can pay, it varies extremely wildly, and also depends on how clean the building is, what the construction looks like, and if it's an expansion. So we do have some kind of proprietary behind the scenes formulas that we use, but ultimately it's going to come down to what we're getting the building for and what the price per square foot for the market is. I'm going to move on 2 other questions here that I can kind of answer together. So seeing a 10-year growth plan for Nomad, here's a question. With his extensive commercial construction experience, are there plans in place if the father, Eric, retires? Yes. So originally we had the evolution of our goals happen kind of like this. We wanted to get to $100 million of commercial assets under management in 5 years. And then we did our first couple projects and we said, wow, we got the numbers back from the bank that verified all of our own underwriting. And we said, man, we've got to change our goals. And so we changed that 100 million goal to a 3-year goal. And now we've got focus on what we're all trying to accomplish, what our goal is for ourselves and the community of investors that we're trying to build. And we've got a 10-year goal, and we changed the $100 million goal to 2 years, and we hit that in a little over 18 months. Now we've got a 5-year goal of continuing to get bigger and bigger projects, look at some portfolios of 3 to 5 Kmarts at a time. Believe it or not, that exists. Getting to $500 million in 5 years with a 10-year goal of $1 billion assets under management. So yeah, there is a plan in place. If Eric decides to retire, at this point, he's steering the ship, but Levi's doing all of our construction. Levi's in his 20s. He's doing all of the construction. We've got another series of directors of construction underneath him. And I'll be honest with you, we're having a lot of fun. We are having a lot of fun. We enjoy working together. It's not something that anybody's interested in stopping anytime soon. So the plan is to keep moving and keep pushing ahead. And if Eric decides to disappear for another 3.5 years and go sailing at some point, Levi's more than ready to step in, and we've got people kind of lined up in that place. So that's where we are with that. And again, we're grateful to have found the group and be a part of it. So this is a great question. What's your exit strategy after huge value add? Wonderful question. So, some of the advice that we got from some of the mentors that we have, Joe Fairless and a few other people, told us that they need to see, everybody wants to see you exit a deal. And we have exited deals for privately owned properties. Since we started syndication, it's important for us to do that. So we have plans to sell a few of our conversions. We've had a couple REITs looking at them and some offers floated back and forth. We know that they're going to be worth more at fully stabilized. So we're going to continue just filling them up and keep doing what we're doing. But we do have some projects that we need to sell. But at the same time, we understand, because of the huge value add here, that these are golden geese, right? So why do you want to kill and eat the golden goose when you can just live off the eggs? So the plan that we are starting to use more and more, and again, it varies back from project to project. There are some projects that we are heavily incentivized to sell. Sometimes we pick up projects in a qualified opportunity zone. In that situation, money that goes in that's a capital gain has opportunity to multiply sometimes 3, 4, 5 times and come out tax-free on the back end. So again, just a loose example, in situations like that, we're heavily incentivized to sell. More and more of what we're moving to is what we call legacy projects. And again, it varies from one to the other, so don't hold me to this, but what we're looking at, we can be into these projects at 30% loan to value. So because we're buying them so cheaply, we're doing the construction cost for just a percentage over construction for a percentage over cost because we're vertically integrated and doing it in-house. We can be into these projects for 30, 35% loan to value. So we could refi, and we could refi at 60% loan to value. We don't have to leverage it all the way up to 70 or 75 or 80%. We could refi at 60 or 65% LTV, double our investors' money, which is coming by way of a refinance, which makes it a non-taxable event. One thing that makes us different is that on the properties where we do that, we're not buying you out of the deal. That doesn't create real estate nomads, right? If we're selling our properties or if we're buying people out of the deal, we're house flippers, right? And the day we stop working is the day we stop getting paid. The way that we create real estate nomads and generational wealth and freedom of purpose by way of time, location, and financial independence is by leaving people in the deal. We buy deals that have huge value add. We can pay people out often by way of a refinance, which is a non-taxable event. And then you keep your percentage of equity, right? We think if we double your money, there's a real good chance you're going to reinvest with us again, especially if it's tax-free. But then you can keep your percentage of equity. Obviously, it resets the debt base, so it resets the loan. So it's your cash flow is going to go down some, but you're going to have cash flow in perpetuity as long as we hold the property. So if we hold it forever and it goes into a trust and you give it to your kids, that's great. That's up to you. Sometimes an offer's too good and we're probably going to have to sell a property. But the way that we hit our goal of $1 billion in assets under management is by taking care of our investors and establishing trust, being the operators and doing that we say we're going to be, and doing things transparently and ethically and morally the right way in an effort to try to build real estate nomads. So that's a very long-winded answer, but an answer I think is really important. So sometimes the exit strategy might be a sale. More often than not, what we are trying to do is keep the golden geese and keep living off the eggs.
In that vein of things, I didn't see it pop up, but is there cost segregation work that you guys do in these buildings? Is it post-construction?
Absolutely.
Is that what you wait and do? Or how does that
We
play
have to,
into these deals usually too?
Yeah, we have to wait for the CO. So
Okay.
at the CO, then we do cost segregation study. And the idea is we take accelerated depreciation to try to equal out cash flows so that the cash flows are as non-taxable as possible.
Because you're not cash flowing until then anyway. So it kind of comes at the same time. Gotcha.
Yeah. So we wait and then depreciate accelerated depreciation so that it kind of cannibalizes your tax liability. And then when you have a big cash event, if it comes by way of refinance, you're getting all your initial investment back plus another large lump sum, and that's non-taxable as well. Gotcha. But yes, we utilize cost seg on every property.
Great.
Let's see, what else do we have here? Do partners and employees co-invest with LPs? If so, how much? I'll answer that right now. Yes, we do. So Neil and I we have money in every deal now, and Eric and Levi do as well. Sometimes a significant amount. It's going to vary from deal to deal, right? So when I started investing with Nomad as a limited partner. So we have a $50,000 minimum is the minimum on most of our deals. It's all of them so far. And we have Class A shares at 250 or up and Class B shares at 50,000. So, at the time I was investing as a limited partner. Now, to be honest with you, we're moving at a fast enough pace that I can't afford to put $50,000 into every deal. So we do put money into every deal. I think it's important that we're able to tell you that I'm not going to, tell you to invest in something that we're not going to put money into. And essentially at this point, we have, a small acquisition fee coming out of the deals that we're rolling that and sometimes personal capital, if available, straight into our next deal. So the amount is going to vary a little bit. If you have specific questions about specific deals, I'm an investor first. I'm happy to talk to you about it. But yes, we put, besides our time and experience, you have to have three things to have success: time, experience, and capital. Right. So syndication is all about you using your capital and partnering with people that have time and experience. And if you don't have time, you can't get experience, and to put those three things together. But it still is important to us to have our own capital in the deals. Our investors are also not at risk. We're signing on the debt. Right. So for us, we're all in. But yes, we do invest in the different deals. It's going to be different amounts for different deals. And obviously I'm probably investing less in a lot of than Eric may be in some of his deals.
I think I can answer these next two from Chuck. What is the usual range of time frame that you need for a conversion? Has the time frame become extended due to labor and material issues? So the answer to that, Chuck, is it normally takes about 12 months. From the time that we close on the building to the time we go through permitting, demo, and then, get the building nice and clean and ready. And then once we start putting storage units in there, it happens very fast. Now, during COVID, we had construction projects that were delayed by supply chain issues. They were delayed by labor issues, all of that. And we navigated that. It wasn't fun. It wasn't pretty. It did not impact our bottom line. We were still able to deliver, again, because we're buying these properties for such a low cost. Our margin of safety is very high. We certainly wouldn't want to go through it again, but I think we all feel stronger for having been through it. And then you asked me about how did adding the HVAC actually decrease the electric bill on the second project? Great question. I love this story. So the lights that the previous owner was using, who was mismanaging the facility badly, they were those old sodium lights that if anybody, if there's any Gen Xers or boomers out there, you'll remember, when you turned on those gym lights, they make this sound, and then they take about an hour to warm up before they're fully bright. Well, because of that, they would just leave them on 24 hours a day, and they're extremely power hungry, and they just left them on all day long. And so first things they did is they went through, they stripped out all those, and they stuck in motion activated LED. So they keep a little bit of light on all the time, just so that there's some light, but then most of the light doesn't turn on until somebody walks by it, which is a huge savings in light. It was such a huge savings that even with adding HVAC units and enclosing that and making it 100% climate controlled, the electric bill went down. I don't know by exactly how much. I'd be happy to get the numbers for you, though. It's a great story.
That original electric bill from the high pressure sodium lights dropped by over $12,000 a month. It was huge. And so when they add in the AC, obviously that's an anecdotal kind of one-off situation, but you'd be amazed in this fragmented market, opportunity like that exists, especially if you're in-house contractors. That's the kind of value add. And
to top it off, Lime Energy, which is the local power company here, had actually approached the previous owner about replacing those lights for like $3,000. They would have replaced them with all LED, and the owner said no. And so one of the first things that Eric did when he bought it was call Lime Energy, and they said, "Oh yeah, we know that building. We'll be happy to come in and do it."
That's great.
And then anyway, there was a grant to put LEDs in, so that's why the price was so low.
All right. So the question about the price per square foot rent and the ratio of price per square, I'm going to forward that on to our acquisitions guy, Drake, and see if I can get that answered for you. And I'd be happy to have Chad pass that along to the community.
Absolutely. Yep.
Again, very market dependent. The underwriting for our projects varies wildly, just from 100-mile difference from one market to another.
Any more questions?
Yeah. Any other questions coming in? And by all means, we'll point out again the contact information here on the screen that people can reach out independently as well, if they see the need. But hopefully you guys will be interested enough to reach out to Nomad and learn more and start that relationship. Good stuff, guys. Really, again, appreciate you coming on and sharing this today.
Sounds great. Absolutely. Thank you, Chad.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time. Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Look forward to it.
Yep. Bye-bye.